What's going on YouTube? Big Dog Brett, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Today we're going to be talking about the returning quarterbacks for 2021. Who's out there? Who's the best? Guess we'll compare them here in a minute and find out.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, guys. Well, let's get into this. I'm going to try to go through it as quick as I can. There's a lot of people on this list. Last year with losing Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, and a few others, it's kind of unique to see that quality and caliber of quarterback, try saying that 5 times fast, disappear in one season. Sure, 2020 was a weird year for college football. We all know, we all get it. But it's put quite a focus on what's coming back for 2020. So that having been said, I've got a list of players here. I'm going to go through each one of them, saving the best for last, at least in my opinion. I'm going to start out with somebody probably very few of you know anything about or heard anything about, and it's a guy by the name of Brock Purdy. He has great numbers. He's at Iowa State. Has great numbers for a terrible conference. He did throw for 2,700 yards, 2,750 to be exact, but 2,700 yards last year. That's quite a bit. So, and 382 yards in rushing. So he had an over 3,000 yards year, 5 rushing touchdowns, 29 touchdowns through the air. He threw 243 receptions out of 365 passes. He literally threw a pass for every day of the year, made 243 of them. So, yeah, that's pretty good. His accuracy is pretty good, except that he's got 9 interceptions. So basically, he throws an interception for every 2 touchdowns he throws. Guy's got some work to do, but in that conference, he's one of the better ones. So we'll come back here. We'll come back around to that conference here in a minute. Let's talk about Desmond Ritter at Cincinnati. UGA played him at the end of the year. Very similar as far as touchdowns to interception ratios, but didn't quite get to that 3,000 yard marker. Georgia put a hurting on that for him. He only threw for 200 yards against UGA in the bowl game, but he did rush for 600, right at 600 yards. He was actually over 600 coming into that game, and Georgia took him backwards 17 yards on rushing. So that knocked him under 600 yards. He did have 12 rushing touchdowns, which is pretty solid. But he had 6 interceptions for 19 passing. So not the most accurate quarterback in the league. He looked good at times. I think he was All-American or something or another. The question is that can he hold up that kind of performance against top quality tier opponents? Doesn't seem so. He only put up 206 yards in passing against Georgia. They barely mustered 21 points. They had a pretty good defense. Georgia struggled with their defense a little bit, but was able to rally and come back and win that game. He only threw for 2 touchdowns that entire game. So in regular season play, he only threw for 17 touchdowns. Not bad, but not great. But if you're looking for a quarterback to watch next year, I think he could be pretty interesting to watch because he really does have a nice toolkit as far as quarterback talent goes, and I think he could be better next year. I'm going to watch him to see how he does. I would expect him to keep Cincinnati somewhere in the top 15, top 10. We'll see what happens. Now, they also played UCF. Now, UCF has Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel, in my opinion, out of these 2 quarterbacks, is a much better quarterback. Cincinnati beat UCF, I think, by like 3 points or something. But his 2020 numbers, he threw the ball over 400 times. The guy has 3,570 yards through the air, 32 touchdowns with 4 interceptions. I don't know that there's anybody else out there that has those kind of numbers on the board. even some of the top tier can't touch that. I get it. The league's a little different, and UCF is trying to establish themselves as a dominant ball club. But for me, I think he's going to be an excellent quarterback to watch. He throws it around a lot. If it wasn't for a couple of unexpected losses in that season, I really think they would have been probably asked to join the college football playoff. You can make an argument for or against. I see what you're saying, but no doubt about it, this guy's got some arm talent. Even in that league, nobody else is really throwing for 3,500 yards. So you got to take your hats off to this guy. He really became a complete player at UCF, and next season he's got to be one of the best quarterbacks in the American Athletic Conference. It's just the AAC, just no doubt about it. Then we're going to jump up here to Sam Howell. Sam Howell threw for 3,586 yards last year, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Probably going to be the best quarterback in the ACC. I know Clemson fans aren't going to want to hear that. They're going to tell me that DJ Ooga is the best quarterback since ever. But we've seen him play in 2 games as a starter. I get that he's done a good job in his other game. I get it. He's 1-1. This guy's been consistent for North Carolina. I would argue that North Carolina is a little bit understaffed and a little bit under-recruited right now. I can guarantee you their recruiting numbers are going to improve with quarterbacks like Sam Howell there. He was North Carolina's all-time leader in total yards at the prep level at 17,036. For some reason, this guy committed to the Tar Heels. I don't know why other teams weren't offering this guy. He was smart, and Mac Brown got him to flip from Florida State. I know Florida State's kicking themselves. This guy threw for 30 touchdowns last year. 30 touchdowns. Guys, that's a lot, man. I mean, he's on his way to shattering every major program record for passing in Chapel Hill as a multi-year starter. And don't be surprised if you see this guy on a Heisman list. This is junior year. He could very well come back his senior year. If he has a great year this year, I would almost bet you money he's off to the pros. If not, if he comes back his senior year and he continues to improve like this, get used to hearing the name Sam Howell. Mac Jones has really picked up a dime over there. I mean, the guy's incredible. So as far as the next guy on the list here, please understand, I'm not saying that these quarterbacks, the ones that I'm naming, are going to be the best quarterback of whatever. I'm saying these are probably the most talented quarterbacks we're going to see coming back next year. We've got to talk about Derek King. University of Miami, Hurricane. Last year, threw for almost 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns through the air, 4 rushing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 500 yards in rushing. That's over 3,000 yards of offense side of one gentleman. He said he's coming back prior to the loss to Oklahoma State with a devastating knee injury. Now he's going to be back. Apparently his surgery was a success. They expect him to be ready for fall camp, but they open with Alabama. Ouch. So I don't predict that Derek King is going to have a stellar game against Alabama. I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to be one of the quarterbacks of the year to watch. He's very dynamic. He's very athletic. He's fun to watch. But I think a lot of people are going to over-critique him during the Alabama game. And they're going to say, hey, Derek King's no good, and they're going to forget about him. If he comes out and upsets Alabama somehow, absolutely. I don't see that happening. But if he comes out and does that, he's definitely going to be, one of the top guys to watch in the league. I don't foresee that happening with him having to recover from this knee injury. All right, I mentioned him earlier, talking about another team that wears orange. DJ Ooga. Ooga la le li DJ. Watching him play in a game and throw over 400 yards is impressive. Any player that can throw for over 400 yards in a game, that's impressive. Regardless of who you have at the receiver position, you still got to be putting the ball in some incredible places and have some great athleticism and vision to make that happen. He had 2 starts, played in 9 games overall, registering 9 total touchdowns and nearly 1,000 yards in total offense in just 9 games. He didn't start and play those games full. He played partial games in a lot of those games. He had 2 full games, but the rest were partials. So if you take that into context, the guy does have some talent. Now, he's going to be tested in his first game of the season starting out against Georgia. Georgia returns a lot of players. A lot of people looking at Georgia to make a national championship run. If they can get past Georgia, they have one of the easiest schedules in all of college football. They can get past Georgia, they're probably going to be in the college football playoffs. We'll see how he does. I think that, again, it's kind of like a Derek King, except I think DJ is way better than Derek King. I think so. I think DJ, if he can get past Georgia without getting beat up too bad as far as his number stats, he could set records, because their season, this coming up schedule is just nothing to get excited about. If you're a Clemson fan, probably going to have a banner year with the exception of playing Georgia, because the rest of the teams are just terrible. Okay, so now let's talk about Spencer Rattler a little bit. Now, Spencer Rattler, if you look at his numbers, you go, okay, numbers are pretty good. He's getting better. He's going to be a Heisman frontrunner next year. Anybody in Oklahoma already knows his name. There's not really much else going on in Oklahoma, so they kind of pay attention to football. But nonetheless, Spencer Rattler, working under Lincoln Riley, he's going to be. You're going to hear that name over and over and over again. He threw for 30 touchdowns last year, over 300 yards total offense, threw for 7 interceptions. You can bet that this guy is going to be watched closely and should be. He's another elite quarterback. This is probably one of the top 4 quarterbacks coming back next year. Just is. Now let's talk about somebody else who's got some problems. He's got some problems. But if he can fix a little bit of that, just a little bit, he'll be really good. I'm talking about Matt Corral at Ole Miss. He threw for 3,337 yards last year, 29 touchdowns, 500 yards in rushing, and 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, he did throw for 14 interceptions, but part of that is because Lane Kiffin has this high-powered air raid offense, so he slings the ball a lot. He tries to work the ball into places that he really shouldn't yet. I think that a lot of that's going to be fixed. They're going to have the full spring camp, full fall. It's going to give him plenty of opportunity to fix those problems. I still think he's going to go for a ton of yards. I think you're going to see less on the interception side. I think his rushing may go up a little bit. You just tweak a few numbers here and there on him, and he becomes a Heisman Trophy candidate. The INTs are an issue. They got to get that fixed. Between the Trenches, he has his own YouTube channel. Go check him out. Me and him also do a podcast called Third and a Mile. He brought it to my attention that he thinks Lane Kiffin is going to be the person to take down Alabama. Now, I think that Lane Kiffin has Alabama circled on the schedule. And he's going to pour everything he can into beating Alabama. Now, for those of you out there that watched the game last year, Alabama did win that game. It was like 63-48 or something. But Alabama only led that game by 7 points at the end of the third quarter. Now, Alabama did put the game away, but it was a lot closer than what Nick Saban would have liked and what Alabama fans would have liked. They let Ole Miss hang around way too long. Now, if Lane Kiffin can get a few of these things fixed and Matt Corral can get on a roll, he might be able to pull off an upset. I watched this guy closely. Strong candidate for strong candidate for the best in the West in the SEC. All right, that brings us up to the final 2. Reason I say these final 2, obviously, you'll understand in a moment. We're going to talk about Kenyan Slewis. Kenyan Slewis, USC, threw for almost 2,000 yards, had 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That's almost an interception for every pass. Now, don't get me wrong. Hey, guys, there's not a lot out there in that conference. I tried to pull something from everywhere. I can't just say all the quarterbacks in the SEC are great, because they're not. We're certainly not going to put Emory Jones on this list. But Kenyan Slewis was the quarterback that took over the position at USC after JT Daniels went out. JT Daniels, with an injury, JT Daniels tried to come back, couldn't get the job back from Slewis. So he's been there ever since. Slewis managed 17 touchdowns in 6 games. They only played 6 games. Now, they did have a lot of interceptions. I get that. But to throw for 17 touchdowns and 1,900 yards in 6 games, that's on pace to be like a 4,000-yard season. That's nuts. That is nuts. Did his best work in the fourth quarter, come from behind several times to win games. Kenyan Slewis definitely has some talent. But if they'd have won a full season, he might have been at 34 touchdowns with 14 interceptions. So I don't know. But guy definitely has some talent out there. A lot of INTs. Got to get that fixed. Now we're coming down to the final piece of the puzzle. Of course, I did save the best for last, Mr. JT Daniels. Now, JT Daniels only started in 4 games. 4 games. That's it. 4. He went for 80 of 119. That's right at a 75% ratio, I believe. Is that right? Was it 60%? 66%? I think it's like 67%, 68%, somewhere in there. He was on pace to throw for over 3,600 yards, have over 240 receptions, over 30 touchdowns. But he only made 4 starts. He's arguably the hottest player down the stretch last year that was not named Devontae Smith. Yeah, I get you're gonna give me some heat on that, Bama fans. I get it. You're gonna say Mac Jones, Mac Jones, Mac Jones. I get it. But I'm not the one that said that. Another news outlet said that, so I'm just repeating it. He helped Georgia multiple times this season. JT Daniels has a lot of talent. Couple that with the fact that he has a full off season, fall camp, spring camp, and he's got a plethora of wide receivers at running back. Now, Georgia did lose Jermaine Burton. Georgia did lose George Pickens, but we still have a plethora of talent back there. And we don't know what the status is on Jermaine Burton right now. I'll make another video on that later, but it's possible he could be back sooner rather than later. We'll see. A lot to be said for JT Daniels coming back next year. He has all the tools in the toolkit to give Georgia what they need. Another guy made a video watching, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. He made a video about all the stuff and how JT Daniels actually performed last year in his games. Really brought some stuff to my attention. If JT Daniels is 75% of the quarterback that Georgia fans think he is, he can easily carry that team to an SEC championship and possibly a national championship, especially with the tools that are around him. There's so much that all of these quarterbacks can do. I'm going to run through the list again. Brock Purdy, Derek King, DJ Agalagalele, Sam Howell, Kenyan Slewis, JT Daniels, Matt Corral, Spencer Rattler, Desmond Ritter, and Dylan Gabriel. All of these quarterbacks are capable of being truly elite household names next year. So keep your eye on that. Keep your eyes on them, guys. I don't know what to tell you. So before we go any further, I want to appreciate all you guys that have made it this far in the video. If you would hit like, subscribe, share. Don't forget to send it to your mama and them. Also, if you guys want to support the channel, you can go over to the Big Dog Brett Teespring store, pick yourself out a t-shirt, sweatpants, or a hoodie. It's going to be cold this season coming up. By the way, we're going to be at the spring game, so you guys can check us out over there. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at UGA Big Dog Brett. I post stuff all the time. Much appreciated, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. Leave a like, a comment down in the comment section. Let me know who you think is going to be the best quarterback in this upcoming season. I'd love to get your feedback, guys. So without further ado, you guys have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.